Hello, my dear students. Today we will discuss the chapter Equipotential Surface of section 3 of electrostatics. In previous classes, we have discussed what is electric potential. Again, I am recalling the electric potential we know. Now we have to discuss equipotential surface. That means we have to choose a surface in a such a manner the electric potential at every point on it are same. Equi means same. Potential that we have discussed. So if you will get a surface in such a manner that every point on it, if the electric potential is same, then we may call it is a equipotential surface. For example, we are taking a point charge here situated at O and distance R, a point is taken A. Similarly, at distance another R, another point C. Distance R, another point B. That means this is the locus of point of same distance from the point O. And this surface is a spherical. At every point on it, if you calculate VA, VB and VC, that will be beta source charge divided by distance. That means this is a surface enclosing a point charge. On every point on it, electric potential will be same. That means this surface is an equipotential surface. Similarly, we can choose another surface of same equidistance from the point charge O. There will be another equipotential surface for the point charge Q. That means here the shape of the equipotential surface for point charge appears to be spherical in shape. So, what is the definition of equipotential surface? The surface at every point on it, the electric potential is same, known as equipotential surface. So many characteristics that we have to discuss one by one, and these points are very important to concept clear and to appear the short question answers. First point is, what is the shape of the equipotential surface for point charge that we have discussed? It is a concentric spheres. Concentric spheres means there may be one sphere, there may be another sphere, but all these spheres have common center. That's why it is known as concentric spheres. Similarly, for line charge, we can argument the equipotential surface are cylindrical in shape and they have common axis. That's why shapes can be called as coaxial cylinder. So, shape of the equipotential surface you should remember for point charge, that is concentric spheres, for line charge, that is coaxial cylinder. If charge is at infinite, whether it is a point charge or line charge, then shape of the equipotential surface will be plane. You should remember, if the charge is situated at infinite, let the charge is here, surface will discuss very far point. So surface will be appear as a plane surface. So surface is a plane if the charge is situated at infinite. That means the shape of the equipotential surface will be plane if the charge is situated at infinite, whether it is point charge or it may be line charge. But at a finite distance, the shape of the point charge is, shape of the equipotential surface for point charge is spherical, and the shape of the equipotential surface for line charge at a finite distance will be cylindrical. But if all the charges are at infinite distance, then shape will be plane. Then we have to discuss another point. All the points are very important. Second point is also important point here. What statement is given here? The amount of work done for moving a charged body. If you move a charged body on the equipotential surface, there will be no work done. Work done is 0. Why work done is 0? We will go for analysis. Equipotential surface means mathematics we can write V is equal to constant. If you take a differentiation, dV is equal to 0. If you multiply the charge Q which moves on the equipotential surface, then you will get amount of work. Q dV will be amount of work, because potential formula is V is equal to W by Q. So dV is equal to, if you will multiply Q dV, then it will be dW. So as potential is a constant, the amount of work done on the equipotential surface for moving a charged body is always 0. This is the analysis part, and this is the point you should remember. The amount of work done for moving a charged body on the equipotential surface is always 0. Then we will go for second point, third point. What is this point here? The direction of electric field intensity is perpendicular to the equipotential surface. This property also we have discussed when we discussed the electric lines of force. In that cases, we also discussed the direction of electric lines of force is perpendicular to the equipotential surface. Same thing is written here. The direction of electric field intensity is perpendicular to the equipotential surface. Why perpendicular? You see the analysis. Here also V is equal to constant. That means dV is equal to 0. And previous classes we have read this formula. dV can be represented as minus E vector dot dr vector. That must be 0 here. If dot product of two vector quantities is 0, then we can say E vector perpendicular to dr vector. So you see the diagram. This is an equipotential surface and this is the point P. If you are interested to draw the electric field intensity here, so you should draw a perpendicular. So there are two questions. If equipotential surface is given, how can you calculate direction of intensity? Now by drawing a perpendicular. But in the previous classes we know that if electric lines of force given, if it is electric lines of force, at any point on it, how can you calculate direction of electric field intensity? By drawing the tangent. But for equipotential surface, if you will draw the perpendicular, then you find the direction of intensity. That's why direction of electric field intensity is always perpendicular to the equipotential surface. This is your proof. Now very important point is there. As like two electric lines of force does not intersect each other, similarly, two equipotential surfaces do not intersect each other. Why do not intersect each other? For same argument as like lines of force, you draw a two equipotential surface named S1 and S2. The intersection point P is here. If you will choose the surface S1, the direction of intensity is perpendicular to the surface S1. So this is the direction of intensity due to surface 1. Similarly for the surface 2, if you drew another perpendicular E here, so it represents the direction of intensity due to surface S2 and this represents the direction of intensity due to surface S1. Because for two surfaces, two perpendiculars are there. As electric field intensity is a vector quantity, it should have a unique direction. That means single direction. It should have. But here we are getting two direction. That is impossible. Or we can say it is undesirable. So two equipotential surfaces do not intersect each other. Why? Because at the point of intersection, we are getting two different directions of intensity, which is undesirable for vector calculation. That's why two equipotential surfaces do not intersect each other. Then next point. The equipotential surfaces are crowded for stronger field and wider apart for weaker field. Stronger field means magnitude is more. Weaker field is mean magnitude is less. Why this? Now you know the formula E is equal to minus dV by dr. Electric field intensity is equal to negative of electric potential gradient. dV is equal to change in electric potential and dr is your distance along the direction of intensity. You see, if potential difference remains constant at two surfaces, then E must be proportional to 1 by dr. That means if the two surfaces are close to each other, then intensity will be more. So you see the diagram. These are the equipotential surface of different value, and here the equipotential surfaces are crowded. Same equipotential surface crowded, but here the wider apart. So we can, from the figure we can say that here is electric field is more, here is electric field is less. So our discussion point is the equipotential surfaces are crowded. Crowded means very close. In case of a stronger field and a wider apart, it for weaker electric field. Similar properties also we have discussed in electric lines of force. Electric lines of force are crowded for stronger electric field and electric lines of force are also wider apart for weaker field. Same situation arises here. The equipotential surfaces are crowded for stronger electric field and wider apart for weaker electric field. Now we have to go through next properties. What is the property? The surface of a charged conductor is an equipotential surface. In previous classes we have also discussed but we have not discussed why surface of a charge conductor is an equipotential surface. Now let's go for analysis. This is a charged conductor. This is a charged conductor, spherical in shape. From introduction class, property of charge, we have discussed the charge always resides on the surface of the conductor. So here charge will be resides on the surface of the conductor. First to think, the here potential is more and here potential is less. First to think, let imagine it is a conducting body and surface is not equipotential surface. First to imagine. That means potential is more here and the potential is less here. If there is a potential difference, so charge will flow from higher potential to lower potential. As water flow from high pressure to low pressure, as heat flow from high temperature to low temperature, similarly, charge always has a tendency to move from higher potential to lower potential. Up to what point they will flow? Up to until the equipotential surface are not maintained. So charge will flow starts to continue. When the two surfaces is same potential, then charge does not overflow. That's why we can say that for any charged conductor, surface must be equipotential surface. If you think there is a change in potential difference, then definitely charge will flow from higher potential to lower potential to maintain the equipotential surface. So you should remember, for a conducting surface charged body, for conducting surface charged body, surface is always an equipotential surface. Then there are two important points. Next point is for symmetric conducting charged body. First thing, it is conducting body. That means charge always resides on its surface. Symmetric conducting body meaning everywhere, every portion of the conductor is symmetric with respect to a common point, that is center of mass. From this center of mass, the position of all the parts of the conductor appears to be same for symmetric conducting body. Here we have taken the spherical body is a symmetric conducting body. Here it is a center of mass. Every point on the conductor are at equal distance from the center of mass. That is symmetric conducting body. For a symmetric conducting charge body, what the statement says? A charge is equally distributed on its surface. That means what? Every point on it, charge is equally distributed. If you will choose the point A here, if you will choose the point B here, so charge will be same at A and charge will be same at B. Now by mathematical analysis, we have to prove how for symmetric conducting charged body, charge is equally distributed. Let's see the figure. This is a spherical conducting body. This is center of mass. We are taking 2 points A and B. Same portions of the element taken from A and B. Let the amount of charge QA is deposited here and let another amount of charge QB is deposited at B. We do not know whether QA is equal to QB or not equal to QB. First to think, this RA must be equal to RB because this is a symmetric conducting body. And surface is a equipotential surface because it is a conductor. As it is equipotential surface, potential at A must be equal to potential at B. This is the first line. Then you put the formula of potential. Beta source charge by RA, beta QA by RA, here beta QB by RB. Beta proportionality constant cancelled out. As RA is equal to RB for symmetric conducting body, as RA is equal to RB, symmetric conducting body, RA is equal to RB, these also cancelled out. So QA is equal to QB. That means surface charge density at A is equal to surface charge density at B. So what the statement shows is correct. For symmetric conducting charged body, charge is equally distributed on its surface. That this can be proved by this manner, you should remember. Then there is a last point for unsymmetric charged conducting body. In the previous point, it was a symmetric conducting charged body, and this point is for unsymmetric conducting charged body. Conducting charged body means charge resides on its surface, as in the previous point. And unsymmetric means the shape of the body is not symmetric with respect to center mass. If it is unsymmetric, then statement says that charge is not equally distributed on its surface. How it is not equally distributed, we have to discuss. Let this figure is unsymmetric charged body. We can guess center of mass is at this side, lower side or base side, because it is heavy and it is light. This is center of mass. We are choosing two points here, A and B. And charge deposited let at QA and here is QB. Now calculate the position vector of A and B from the center of mass. This is RA and RB. Picture also shows RA greater than RB. You should remember. For unsymmetric body, RA is not equal to RB. As it is equipotential surface, potential at A must be equal to potential at B. Then you put the formula beta QA by RA. Here the formula is beta QB by RB. Beta beta cancelled out. QA by RA is equal to QB by RB. That means the amount of charge and position vector ratio is a constant quantity. If charge increases, then position vector increases. Or you can, in this way also you can explain, multiply both the terms. Product of two quantities are same. If RA greater than RB, definitely QA greater than QB. That's why product remains constant. So as RA greater than RB, that's why QA greater than QB. You see the figure, QA is greater than QB. QA is greater than QB. You see the figure, QA is greater than QB. That means surface charge density at A must be greater than surface charge density at B. That means for unsymmetric charged body, the surface charge density is maximum at the pointed end and minimum at the flattened end. Surface charge density is maximum at the pointed end and minimum at the flattened end. You see the figure? Here QA greater than QB, that means sigma A greater than sigma B. That means surface charge density at pointed end must be greater than surface charge density at the flattened end. I am giving another example, that is a cone shaped conductor. Here it is apex and here it is base. If you will distribute the charge, at which point charge will be maximum and which point charge will be minimum. From this figure, this is a pointed end, this is spike point or pointed end, and this is base. So charge will be maximum at the pointed, means at apex charge will be maximum and minimum at its the base. So today we have discussed the equipotential surface. First we have to remember what is equipotential surface. The surface at every point on it, the electric potential is the same, is known as equipotential surface. Then we have to remember the property or characteristics of the equipotential surface. First property, you should know what is the shape of the equipotential surface for point charge and for line charge. For point charge, shape is spherical, and for line charge, the shape is cylindrical. If the point charge or line charge is situated infinite, then the surface should be plane. Then we have to discuss what is the amount of work done for moving a charged body on the equipotential surface. Answer is very simple, that is 0, because change in potential difference is 0. Then next point we have discussed what is the direction of electric lines of force or electric field intensity is to the equipotential surface. You should remember the angle between the direction of electric field intensity and the equipotential surface is always 0. From that argument we can say that two equipotential surfaces can never intersect with each other, because at the point of intersection we will get two perpendiculars which represent two directions of intensity at two different at a single point, which is against the rule of the vector, as electric field intensity is a vector. Then we have discussed strength of the electric field. How can you calculate from the equipotential surface? If the equipotential surfaces are crowded, then strength of the field is more. If the equipotential surfaces are wider apart, then the strength of the field is very less. Then we have to discuss how the equipotential surface in a conducting body. For every conducting body, surface is an equipotential surface, because charge always resides on its surface. If you make an argument there is a difference of electric potential on the conducting surface body, then charge will flow from higher potential to lower potential until to maintain its equipotential surface. So our final result is the surface of a charged conductor is always an equipotential surface. Then we have to remember the last 2 points. What are the last 2 points? For a symmetric conducting body, charge is distributed equally on its surface. For unsymmetric conducting body, charge is not equally distributed on its surface. It is a maximum at the pointed end and it is a minimum at the flattened end. So these are the points and the definitions we have to remember. And the next class we have to discuss some numericals and questions and queries and answers regarding electric potential and equipotential surface. Thank you all.